right, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome once again to Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and today we are taking our journey to the enchanted land of Soviet Russia, where everything was communist and scary and red, including the topic for today. We're talking about big scary ape men, because apparently there was a plan and several experiments that were conducted to create an ape man army for the Soviets to use to conquer the U.S. in the Cold War. So we could have been battling ape men. And I'm not even kidding. Let's get into it. Let's look. The channel we're watching this on is called A Day in History, and we'll look at them after the video. But we're going to dive right into this. This was like one of my favorite episodes of Monster Quest because it was something new to me, right? It was something I hadn't really experienced before. So the Monster Quest was a show in the early 2000s. I think it ran to like 2007. But it was a show. It was about cryptozoology in general, and almost everything on there I'd heard about, had books about. But the Soviet ape men were a new one to me at the time, so I love talking about them because it's like I still feel like it's like something I learned as an adult in the magical land of Stalingrad. Yeah, the Enchanted Kingdom, the Enchanted Kingdom of Siberia. Not a damn thing, because a man is an ape. I'm an ape. You're an ape. I'm sorry. We're all apes. And we're going to have to... I've come to terms with that. I actually kind of enjoy it, the fact that I'm an ape. It gives me these cool opposable thumbs. So I can do pincher grasp and everything. I'm able to climb things with my opposable thumbs. I kind of wish I had posable toes too, not gonna lie. So that's what's so weird about that X-Men First Class movie, is like Beast is like a normal dude. He just has opposable thumbs on his feet, and he has like super strength and he's super athletic. But other than that, he just has posable thumbs on his feet. But for some reason, he wants to inject himself with something to make those go away, and ends up turning himself into the blue furry guy. But it's crazy to want to get rid of opposable thumbs on your feet. If you have opposable thumbs on your feet, think about how much more you could get done at a time. Yeah. Oh, Ember needs a heating pad. No volume on the video? Okay. We'll fix that. All right.
What separates man from ape? It's a question that has many answers. Is it our intelligence? Is it our ability to speak or use tools? There's several answers, but each answer comes with an assumption that humans and apes are or should be completely separate. But what if they weren't? What if the intelligence of a human could be combined with the savage power of a wild ape? It sounds like the realm of science fiction, but one man would make it his mission to turn it into science fact. This is the story of Ilya Ivanov and his insane quest to create hybrid ape men. Ilya Ivanovich...
Depends on where you want to walk, though, Accurse. If we lived in an ape society, right? If we lived... we build our cities more vertically than we do, because we're cursorial. That's the thing. That's the difference. You think about jungle apes, African apes, and orangutans in Asia. They're all arboreal. We're cursorial. We're like cursorial pursuit predators. It's wild. We wouldn't live like that in a society where we kept our divergent toe. We'd probably like build more vertical cities, and like you wouldn't necessarily walk everywhere as much as you would climb everywhere. And I imagine like instead of like sidewalks, there'd just be like beams going all over the place where you just walk on them with your feet, just whoop, 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 whoop. But and then yeah, it'd be kind of fun. A prehensile tail would also be badass. Yes, I wish I had a prehensile tail. If I had a prehensile tail, I'd grab my coffee cup with it and be like whoosh. So Nightcrawler and Beast both have pretty nifty powers. Just teleport up with shingles and use 3 nail guns at once. Yeah, you could be doing some roofing. They'd make us work even more. Yeah, that's not, you're not wrong. We probably have to you'd be expected to do more output, more ladders. Yeah, we live in chutes and ladders land if we had Latin, if they like figured out a way to like bring out Latin primitive traits in humans, like prehensile tail, opposable thumbs, and stuff like that. If they were going to do anything, though, I would rather them give me my ability to produce my own vitamin C. Can I do that instead of because I think we lost that somewhere along the monkey line, right? Spider-Man and Doc Ock. Oh my gosh. You'd have a lot going for you there. Prehensile tail, though. Hammering with 4 limbs. LOL. No thanks.
Ivanov was born to a wealthy Russian family in 1870. He graduated with a degree in physiology from Kharkiv in 1896 and proceeded to study bacteriology in Paris until 1898. It was over the course of these studies that he became fascinated with the intricacies of reproduction. Back in Russia, Ivanov's
all boys go through that stage, don't they?
attention quickly fell upon artificial insemination for animals. It was a new frontier of veterinary science at the time. Only a handful of
if you have Jason, if you have a article on that, I'd love to read that. Oh my gosh.
Successful artificial inseminations had ever been
recorded. And I guess I got to shout out I'm getting some super chats. Holy crud. Thank you so much, friends. Let's see, I got $5 from Maya, from one woman to another. Support you. Love you, Maya. Thank you. And then we have from Hell's Bells. You're my favorite chaos elf. Hail Satan. Hail Satan. Horns. Horns.
But Ivanov wanted to develop it in new ways. His early research focused mostly on horses.
Oh, Jedi, holy shit, I'm sorry, I called you a Jedi. Maybe you used to be a Jedi, but you're a Sith now. Sith, did you see that Tobey Maguire's going to be the Spider-Man that exists in the Doom, Doctor Doom timeline or whatever? Miranda, oh my gosh, $10, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I do mention that Hell's Bells gave 666. Appreciate you.
Since breeding farms were widespread and a lot of attention was paid to ensure good horses passed on their genes to new generations, Ivanov was met with criticism and moral outrage at first. The Russian Orthodox Church condemned his research as immoral, and the Moscow Agricultural Institute declared it was potentially dangerous as they interfered with the natural process of reproduction. However, for all his critics, he received plenty of support too. In 1900, Tsar Nicholas II noted the potential of Ivanov's methods for breeding horses and gave him a grant of 2,500 rubles. Then in 1908, he received funds to establish a full laboratory for his work. He also received support from many of Russia's leading scientists. These included Russia's first Nobel Prize winner, Ivan Pavlov, whose work on digestion and animal conditioning
We all know Pavlov. Yep.
Makes him a household name. And Yuri Filipchenko, the founding father of Russian genetic science. By 1909, Ivanov was teaching his methods to academics and animal breeders, and would personally conduct the artificial process for almost 7,000 horses and over 1,000 sheep by 1914. Thanks to his work, Russia...
That'd be, see, like, and this is the problem with nationalism in general, is that when you have something like the Cold War going on, or this was actually Tsarist Russia at this time, but when you have these isolated kingdoms who try to keep their advancements secret for capitalistic purposes, right? Like, if everybody has access to this information, then we can't sell it for money. So scientific advancements are held back, right? Because of isolationism, especially in the early 20th century. But on up into modern day, too, except for now it's more corporatism that controls scientific advancements and keeps them isolated, as opposed to necessarily government research stuff. But it's all government funded. I mean, we're paying for it. But, like, the advancements that they were making at this time in Russia weren't known to the world because they kept it isolated. And the U.S. does that too with our technology. People are like, why does the U.S. have the best healthcare in the world? It's like, because we don't share it with the world, because we keep it for ourselves and profit off of it due to our for-profit medical industry. Oh shit, I'm on a tangent now. Oh my gosh, I'm on a tangent now. Yikes.
Was the global leader in the field. But there was another side to his research that was far more disturbing. History remembers the mad scientists, the ones who pushed boundaries without asking if they should. But it forgets the soldiers.
I was gonna sing Santa Baby. Santa Baby, hurry down the chimney tonight. That's what I was gonna sing for ya. Who was asking for a duet? Yeah. John Hudson, sing Santa Baby. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, but not down here in New Mexico. Now, apparently, the mountains do get snow on them occasionally, but it's always gone by the time the noon hits the mountaintops. But apparently it looks really pretty when the Oregon mountains get snow on them.
Who made impossible choices in seconds. The ones who didn't experiment with life, but gave theirs a way to save others. That's why we started Project Dogtag. We refuse to let the most outrageous acts in our history fade into nothing. Our first drop commemorates Lieutenant John.
I love a mad scientist because I can kind of, I get ya. I get where you're coming from. If I could make hyper-intelligent talking dogs, I would too. You wouldn't be able to stop me if I knew that technology was available. Oh, I'm not a good singer either. I wouldn't say that. I love Eartha Kitt, though. We were just listening to her sing that the other day. That's what put it in my head. No, nobody can match Eartha Kitt.
On our Fox. In 1944, he called in an artillery strike on his own coordinates. His position in an Italian village was being overrun. Enemy forces closing in. His men trapped. Fox grabbed the radio and gave the order that would kill him because it was the only way to save his soldiers and stop the advance. He didn't hold the line. He became it. We're making only 500 pieces. Each piece serves as a person.
All right, we're watching an ad. They slipped it in so I was so distracted. They slipped it in so easily. Very good. Very good. So we were watching an ad. Yeah, they do up in like the southern Rockies. The Rockies come down into New Mexico. Albuquerque and Santa Fe are both on the feet of the Rockies. So you can go up there, and yeah, there's ski resorts up there. They get so much snow. I actually drove through snow on my way down here from Illinois when I passed through New Mexico. When I was up in the Rockies, it was like November like 11th or something last year, and I drove through a snowstorm, and well, not a snowstorm. It was snowing, just it was lightly snowing, but there was snow on the ground, like several inches of snow on the ground. They have snow on the ground back up home too, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's $4.99. Show Kelly some love. Yeah. Show all my friends some love. Got Lil of all trades. Love you, Bree. Be my Santa. I'll bring a present and put it under your tree. Get a mug of tea on me, says Paul Camish. Paul Camish rules. I haven't seen you in forever, Paul. I hope you're well. Paul is a pilot, and we used to talk about UFOs together all the time. Paul was also a debater, and he's got some good debates up on his channel. So if you're into that, go check it out. This is the $10 one from Give Bree Money. All right. And I'm just making sure I didn't miss any. You all are amazing. My friends are amazing. Love you all. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
.com. Use code.
I got tricked into watching an ad though. So, oh, and KC's here. When did you? Why are you not showing up? So I normally look at the chat in my Streamlabs OBS. So it's set to top chat, so the live chat. So you didn't show up in there. I don't know if it's because you're new to the chat, Casey, or what. But yeah, I see you now. Good morning. Thank you for coming. I got lots of cool people in here this morning.
LTFOX35 at checkout. Link in the description. Artificial insemination was, at its core, a way to make reproduction happen where it wouldn't usually do so. Maybe medical issues prevented normal reproduction, or the two animals the owner wanted to breed just weren't interested. But Ivanov soon realized it could be used for much more. What if it could be used to create pairings from entirely different species? His early tests tried to create hybrids between different types of birds or small mammals. In 1905, he befriended an eccentric nobleman named Friedrich.
And that's not like this is the only way that we get the camel llama hybrids is through artificial insemination like that, because they can't, like obviously a camel and a llama are not physically compatible, right?
False Find, who had turned his 35,000-acre estate in Ascania Nova in southern Russia into the country's largest nature reserve, complete with imported exotic animals. False Find invited Ivanov to set up a research station there with free rein to conduct whatever experiments he saw fit. Ivanov quickly got to work with the reserve's diverse species. These included ostriches, camels, and even kangaroos. His experiments included the crossing of a zebra and a horse to create a zebroid. Although he was not.
Yeah, and as weird as it is, I like the genetics of hybridization. I like to see how far I can push it. The furthest away that I know that there's two species that have been hybridized were a puma and a leopard that made a puma pard, and they're from different subfamilies because that's the pantherines and the felines, two different groups, big cats and small cats. The cougar is on the small cat side, and the leopard is on the big cat side, but they're about the same size and they fill the same ecological niche, and they're close enough together that they produced a hybrid that was a dwarf. I mean, it very small compared to either side of the family, smaller than like a Florida panther, but it was a hybrid, a puma pard.
Not the first to do this. The zebroid was more capable of doing farm work and load carrying than a zebra, making it an objective improvement in the eyes of farmers or anyone else who might need working animals. But Ivanov wanted to push it further. While speaking at the International Zoology Congress at Graz in 1910, Ivanov speculated that a hybrid could be created between two other closely related animals, humans and apes. The idea of such a combination was morally repulsive to most, but Ivanov had not developed his artificial insemination
And humans are apes, just to clarify.
techniques for nothing. It might be possible, he argued, to artificially implant human sperm into a female ape and produce a hybrid with the intelligence of a human being, but the savage strength of an ape. Ivanov left the theory as a mere theory for now. His hypothesis was only barely acceptable in an academic discussion, and there was no way the Tsar, the Church, or the imperial scientific authorities would ever approve such an experiment.
I don't know what YouTube thinks they're doing with this new setup where everybody has an @ with their handle instead of their chosen name or whatever. So people get like numbers behind them and stuff like that. Kind of annoying.
He wouldn't have to worry about their approval for much longer. Every Russian's life was transformed when the revolution erupted in 1917. The political chaos, followed by economic collapse and devastating civil war, halted Ivanov's experiments in their tracks. His noble friend Falsfine fled, and his massive nature reserve was soon abandoned. Ivanov also lost the prestige and funding that had come from the Tsar's support and found himself ejected from the many of his high-ranking positions in the chaos. He was to establish his own central experimentation station of the reproduction of domestic animals in Moscow with the approval of the new Bolshevik Commissariat of Agriculture. But the Bolsheviks had more important things to fund than Ivanov's niche research.
Like Lysenkoism? Hopefully not. Everybody's talking about all the different mountain ranges in the U.S. that are out there. They said the change was meant to distinguish between users. I don't know what that means. I can't tell who's who anymore. Who anyone is anymore. I know, it's kind of annoying. Officially, the @ handles are to make tagging work on mobile like it did on desktop, but while they've messed up our names, they haven't managed that goal yet. Dr. Ivanov, it costs less to teach chimpanzees how to use AKs. Yeah.
Until 1921 for him to even be given enough funding to even purchase equipment to resume his experiments, and he had to go to France and Germany to buy it himself. It was so bad that Ivanov considered leaving Russia altogether, but post-war Europe offered few opportunities. Besides, with the change came opportunity. Years of waiting and theorizing had only fueled his forbidden obsession. Now with the Tsar and the old order gone, he was free of the moral constraints of the past. The Bolsheviks were happy to turn a blind eye to what other people considered to be immoral or unnatural. Ivanov didn't get a laboratory to work with until 1924, but he hit the ground running. Since Russia was not home to apes, he contacted his associates at the Institut Pasteur in Paris for permission to use their chimpanzee.
Bringing some French chimps up to bang Russian women. Well, not literally. They do artificial insemination, but a woman's supposed to carry this hybrid, like in her womb.
The research facility in French Guinea, West Africa. With that permission in hand, he petitioned the Bolshevik government directly for $15,000, the equivalent of about $280,000 today, to fund that research. The Soviet government was more than eager. It wasn't just that they had a scientific interest in Ivanov's work. The communists wanted to present themselves as the future of humanity.
And this is where we get Lysenkoism too, which I don't know why I keep bringing up. It is relevant to the type of science that was taking place in Russia at the time. It was more important to get to present findings and results than it was for them to actually be real. Like you could not present bad data. Kind of like how like the U.S. president fired the economic advisor or whatever because they didn't like the economic numbers that they were turning in. Mm-hmm. Your daughter had a hysterectomy on Friday. Oh goodness! I hope she's mending well.
To boast of breaking new frontiers of research was a huge goal. The fact that it was morally questionable and went directly against Christian teachings that most regular Russians still followed wasn't an obstacle. In fact, it was an advantage. The topic proposed by Professor Ivanov, wrote one Soviet official, should become a decisive blow to the religious teachings and may be aptly used in our propaganda and in our struggle for the liberation of working people from the power of the church. Ivanov's proposal received approval from the highest levels of government. Nikolai Petrovich Gorbanov, Lenin's administrator of affairs and formal personal secretary.
Why are Russian last names are just made for super villains, I swear. Like maybe it's because I grew up reading comic books where the bad guys were so often Russian. Maybe that's it. So I associate any kind of Russian-sounding last name with like a villain. That's how indoctrinated I am. People talk about I wasn't indoctrinated by the Red Scare. We all were. We all were.
Presented the project proposal to the government's Financial Commission for the realization of Professor Ivanov's scientific work on the hybridization of anthropoid apes in Africa. With a giant stamp of Soviet approval, Ivanov was finally able to get to work. Ivanov arrived in West Africa in March 1926, but immediately ran into problems. The French chimpanzee facility in Kindia was not everything it was promised. The facility's staff were poorly trained and had lost half of their animals since being founded just 3 years earlier. These facts had apparently been hidden from their superiors back in Paris. Nevertheless, Ivanov pressed on with his work, but quickly hit an impossible roadblock. No matter how hard he tried, for some reason he could not extract sperm or eggs from any of the chimps. Puzzled, he ordered surgical investigations and made an embarrassing discovery. None of the chimps in Kindia had gone through puberty. They were all still children. Less than a month after arriving, Ivanov...
That's kind of the thing about chimps, too. Like, when you see a chimp in the circus, like in the old, like, they don't have chimps in the circus anymore, but like in the old days, like, they would have trained chimps in the circus. They were all children. They were all prepubescent children. Like school children. Adult chimps are super aggressive and hard to work with. And dangerous, highly dangerous. Adult chimps, people, yeah, that's what people like think. Oh, chimps are cute, and I'm gonna hold a chimp. That's a baby chimp. That's a child chimp. Adult chimps, they're about this. They're not much smaller than adult humans, and a lot stronger. More. Oh, look at that. Muscle Mommy Santa. Sorry, I didn't notice that before, but yeah. So, yeah, this guy had a whole bunch of he bought a bunch of chimps, but they're all children.
Boarded a ship back to Paris empty-handed. He spent the next few months in France trying to find alternative sources of chimps and additional funding. He considered doing a lecture tour in America to raise money, but he was warned that his experiments would likely cause public outrage if he talked about them in the States. Eventually, Ivanov secured access to the chimps at the Colonial Botanical Gardens in the French Guinean capital at Conakry, and set out again in November 1926. This time, Ivanov arrived with an assistant.
Right? There's like, Accurse, I get you right there. Accurse says, I get upset when I see animal cruelty in old movies. Sucks, but I love old movies. Saw a POS guy riding some poor ostrich. The bird was clearly in distress. Yeah, ostriches don't want to be ridden at all. And they do ostrich racing, even into modern day. But the St. Louis Zoo used to have, they'd run old movies on a projector sometimes at night from the zoo at the like early in the 20th century, and they used to do a chimpanzee show where they had like a spinning, one of those like swing things like what they have at a carnival, except for they were just like monkey bars to hang from, or pull-up bars, I guess would be the best way to put it. And they would spin one way while there was horses down below, circus horses or ponies, walking, and the momentum of the horses walking turned the other thing the other way. But there were chimps, baby chimps, like little guys, on the horses' backs, jumping up to the bars and then dropping down onto the horse behind it and doing like a routine. And it was really cool to watch, but I'm like, how much whipping did those poor chimps get in order to get them to do this act, right? And elephants too. Elephants it's terrible. I have the end elephant slavery video I run on here because they still treat them like that. They're still basically slave labor in certain rural parts of Southeast Asia, and the training methods they use are incredibly cruel. No, chimps cannot be kept as pets, like at all. Chimps are not pets. In my opinion, chimps are a people, and chimps should be left alone and have their own sovereignty. But that's my opinion. People can call me crazy about having that opinion. I think all great apes deserve personhood. I do. And I would probably argue that elephants and some cetaceans and stuff do too. But that's a whole nother topic, and these chimps back in these days definitely did not have their autonomy.
22-year-old son, Ilya Ilyich Ivanov. He also had the support of French Guinea's governor Jean-Louis Poiret, who provided him with funds and permission to capture new chimps for his experiments. The Ivanovs proceeded to acquire 3 chimps on a hunting expedition and purchased another 10 from local hunters. Finally, Ivanov could get to work. On the morning of February 28, 1927, Ivanov ordered 2 female chimpanzees named Babette and Civet to be secured with nets and ropes in their cages. The cages were moved out of sight since Ivanov was afraid that the mostly African employees of the facility would take issue with what he was about to do. Only Ivanov and his son remained for the experiment. It was dangerous work. The chimps were fully conscious and had fought back in previous examinations. Each of us had a brown...
That's what I'm saying about chimps. You better watch out when you get adult chimps. They're not like the babies. They do not want you to be extracting their sperm or eggs at all. What is this? Oh, goodness. There, yeah. America hating, okay.
Still in the pocket.
Don't bring drama up in here. We're having a fun stream. We're talking about Soviet ape men.
Just in case, he wrote in his diary. After securing them, they injected sperm donated from an unidentified local man into both animals. Then, they waited. Nothing happened. The experiment failed to produce a pregnancy. Undeterred, Ivanov tried again with a third chimp, named Black, on June 25th. This time, they knocked the chimp out first before injecting, but had no more success. This wasn't surprising. The success rate of the artificial procedure was low in all animals, even humans. And 3 experiments simply weren't enough to write off the project completely. But acquiring chimps was complicated and expensive. It was then that Ivanov began exploring a radical alternative. He saw no reason why the human-ape hybrid couldn't be implanted in a human instead. In truth, Ivanov had considered the idea earlier in
this is where things get kind of, They're like, hey, this woman needs to carry this chimp hybrid baby.
1926. A French doctor traveling on the ship with Ivanov in November 1926 recalled that Ivanov had discussed the idea of using his hospital to implant ape sperm into human women. Ivanov considered implanting chimpanzee sperm into female patients at local hospitals in West Africa without their consent. Given the racist views common at the time, it was seen as more acceptable to do such an experiment on African women than anywhere else. Ivanov believed that these non-consensual hybrid experiments on African women would be much easier and cheaper than continuing with female ape subjects. According to Ivanov, Governor Poiré was originally open to the idea, but soon changed his mind and forbade Ivanov from using any hospital patients in West Africa. Ivanov was furious, calling the governor's refusal a terrible blow to his work. He reached out to contacts in French-controlled areas of Central Africa who seemed more cooperative to the idea of using unwilling African test subjects. But fortunately,
unwilling African test subjects. The early days of fucking modern science. It was always people like of color that they're like, oh, we can experiment on them because they're less than human. I don't know how, and I'm a white person, I don't know how someone, I don't get it. I don't get how someone can be, yeah, I'm going to give this 2 thumbs up. And say, let's do it. Let's experiment on these people. I don't understand it. It makes me want to freaking cry. And this went on for hundreds of years where, oh, we need to test the vaccine. We'll test it on the black people. There was so many. And then getting into the breeding camps and things like that. It was horrid.
Budget problems put a stop to those plans. On July 1st, 1927, with Soviet funding having run out, Ivanov and his son departed Conakry. However, they brought with them 13 chimps, including Babbitt, Black, and Civet, to continue their experiments back in Russia. Upon returning, Ivanov and his son received permission to establish the first primate research facility on Soviet soil near the city of Sukhumi on the Black Sea coast. It was the only place in the USSR with climate conditions that could support chimps. By the time they arrived in late 1927, several of their chimps—
I would have assumed they would keep the chimps inside. Oh. Yeah, it's just like a troll.
Subjects, including Babette and Civet, had died en route, but they had enough left to implant a viable chimp colony. Ivanov's focus was now primarily on using human female test subjects. He made no secret of this, telling Russia's Institute of Experimental Endocrinology in December 1927 that human subjects would be more cost-effective and convenient. Ivanov's colleagues at the Academy of Sciences, most of them being pre-revolutionary figures, were appalled and severed ties with him. Nevertheless, the Soviet government, including Administrator Gorbanov, remained broadly supportive. By now, word of Ivanov's experiments had spread abroad as well, inspiring support and opposition from all sorts of people. In America, Ivanov enjoyed the enthusiastic support of the progressive press and members of the American Association for the Advancement of Atheism, but complained that he received,
For
quote,
the advancement of atheism, of all things, right?
a shower of abuse and threats to me from fascists led by the Ku Klux Klan. It still took a long time to establish the primate facility at Sukhumi and make all the arrangements.
I don't know if I would support this work, though. I don't think it's ethical to create human-animal hybrids. Like, that's just my opinion, of course. I don't... Like, maybe there's a way to, like, make a generation that doesn't have cancer by inserting, great white shark DNA into the embryos or something, and that could be seen as ethical, to try to prevent disease. But the idea of actually creating like a hybrid, like a 50-50 mix of an animal and a human, Island of Dr. Moreau, exactly. I can't get on board with that.
viable male primates at first, in summer 1929, Ivanov acquired a 26-year-old orangutan named Tarzan to be used as the sperm donor. As for the human subject,
Of all the great apes, orangutans are probably going to be the least compatible with humans. Right? Using an African ape is probably going to be your best choice. Using a chimp or a bonobo is going to be even better than a gorilla. So the orangutan is not even, right, it's not even in the same tribe. So
Soviet government stipulated that Ivanov only use consenting women rather than the unknowing patients he'd originally planned. Amazingly, he found volunteers. One of his friend's daughters, who was also a gynecologist, agreed to participate. Another woman, identified only as G from Leningrad, also offered herself to the experiment. However, her letter indicates that her mental state wasn't exactly healthy. "Dear Professor, with my private life in ruins, I don't see any sense in my further existence. I beg you, don't refuse me. I ask you..."
oh, wow. Sometimes this is how I open my show. Dear audience, with my private life in ruins, I don't see anything. And my mental health in shambles.
"To accept me for the experiment." This obviously distressed woman's offer was good enough for Ivanov. Only the sudden death of Tarzan from a brain hemorrhage in June 1929 prevented...
Put your ape baby inside of me, she says in her letter, where she describes her life being in ruins. Poor woman.
The experiment starting immediately. All seemed set, and Ivanov just needed to acquire a new pubescent-aged male ape to proceed. In summer 1930, he received 5 adult male chimps for his work and was finally ready to go. Fate, however, had other plans. At the time, a cultural revolution was sweeping through the USSR. Existing elites from politics to academia were facing waves of accusations of disloyalty and counter-revolutionary activity by newcomers eager to prove that they were loyal communists. In May 1930, Ivanov suddenly came under attack from younger members in his field. They had nothing to say about his plans to create hybrids or his proposed experiments on unaware women. Instead, they accused him of counter-revolutionary activity and sabotaging the glorious Soviet Union. Several of his
Yeah, there you go. It wasn't even about his experiments. It was about his politics. They did the same thing that people did to Fauci about the vaccines, right?
high-level supporters across the political and academic system also fell from grace under a storm of false accusations, including Gorbanov. Ivanov's plans ground to a halt. On December 13, 1930, Ivanov was arrested. The charges were totally without evidence, but that didn't save him from prison and exile to Kazakhstan. Eventually, in early 1932, Stalin ordered him to be released, but the stress of his arrest and exile proved too much to handle. Ivanov collapsed and died from a stroke the day before he was due to return home. For a brief moment,
we never got our ape men army.
Ivanov seemed to be at the forefront of radical new sciences with the backing of one of the world's great powers. However, it would come to nothing. His son had no interest in continuing his work, and no one else in Russia came along to pick up the torch. Ivanov's plans for a human-ape hybrid were shelved and quickly forgotten. The primate research facility he established at Sukhumi continues to this day, but has since pursued other avenues of research. While other scientists around the world did occasionally toy with the idea in the decades
Oh my gosh, I remember Sandy, do you remember the sex bot epidemic? That was like what, like 2020, 2021? I remember, because I was like a mod on a whole bunch of people's channels, but my channel wasn't really that big at the time, but I'd get them too. In the chats, you just get like sex bots just... I remember Math Pig, we get them all the time. Critical questions, we get them all the time. And the Daily Atheist, we get them. I remember.
After his death, and rumors of secret hybrid experiments continued in Africa for decades, no human-ape hybrids are known to modern science. The question of whether Ivanov could have succeeded is still unanswered, and there is always the fear that someone, somewhere, will resume his work one day.
Fear. So there was one chimp that people claimed it was a hybrid, and it was Oliver. So here's the video about Oliver the chimp that we're going to watch. Of the alleged hybrid.
You'll have heard of Planet of the Apes in some form or another. But is it theoretically possible for an ape species to evolve to become more human-like? Well, the answer is possibly. In today's episode of Unusual as Usual, we're learning about Oliver the Humanzee.
It was literally like whack-a-mole. I remember the worst one I ever had was with the sex bots and stuff, was an interview that Arden Hart did on a channel, and it went absolutely crazy. The sex bots stopped when the war in Ukraine started. The Russians didn't have access to the internet. Is that true?
Oliver was a chimpanzee born in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1957. He was acquired by animal trainers Frank and Janet Berger in 1960, and they observed some physical and behavioural evidence which led them to believe Oliver was perhaps a human-chimp hybrid, a humanzee if you will. Oliver had a small head. His face was flatter than the average chimpanzee's. He had a pronounced nose and had the habit of walking upright on two legs rather than on his knuckles. Some people say he was the missing link, some kind of throwback between anthropod ancestors to modern day man. The term missing link is not used by biologists because it implies...
That's because every link you connect, you create two more missing links on either side of it. So missing link is kind of a null point. There's always going to be missing links. It's just the nature of the fossil record.
That the evolutionary process is a linear phenomenon and that forms originate consecutively in a chain. Instead, the term last common ancestor is preferred since evolution is a branching process. That said, Oliver had striking human features. His head was bald. He lacked the chimpanzee's trademark short white beard and pronounced forward jaw. He had pointed ears, placed much higher than usual, and even had freckles.
Aw, that's kind of cute.
In 1975, Frank and Janet sold Oliver to a Manhattan lawyer called Michael Miller. Miller planned to present Oliver to the American Museum of Natural History, who he imagined would give him a pat on the back, maybe an award, and would probably want to keep Oliver so that their experts could study him. However, that wasn't the case. With no facilities to hold Oliver, Miller decided to go back to the Bergers and arranged to board Oliver there, which Frank was more than happy to do for an additional $500 a month.
So he sold his chimp to someone and then kept it and got $500 a month to take care of it. I mean, again, I'm not a big fan of keeping chimps in captivity at all. In any, whether it's in a pet condition or in a like a zoo setting. Generally, I'm not a big fan of keeping anthropoid apes in zoos. For the most part, like ones that have conditions like albinism and stuff like that, I guess I can kind of understand they wouldn't survive in the wild. But yeah, I think reconditioning things. Yeah, they yanked out Oliver's canines too. Mine were destroyed by a tongue ring. Oliver did not have his tongue pierced though.
In January of 1976, a reporter got wind of the news, and the story broke. Miller issued a statement and produced photos of Oliver, which appeared in newspapers around the world the very next day. With the media fighting for a chance to see the missing link in person, Miller scheduled a press conference in New York City. Meanwhile, officials from a Japanese television network approached him with an offer. They would not only pay him, but also fund additional scientific studies to be carried out in Japan, including genetic tests. In exchange, they would have the rights to reveal the results in a nationally televised program. To Miller, this seemed like the perfect opportunity to determine Oliver's true nature, to increase his public exposure and possibly make a little money in the process. Oliver and Miller spent 3 weeks on tour in Japan, with TV cameras following their every move. Oliver was dressed in a tux for dinner. He was filmed smoking a cigar and watching TV.
Lots of apes have been taught to smoke throughout history, though. Some of them famously like to smoke cigarettes.
He wore a kimono, getting ready for bed, all for the benefit of the TV show. At one point, scientists placed Oliver on a device called a gravicoder, which indicated that his center of gravity resembled a human being's more than a chimpanzee's. Preliminary genetic tests indicate...
His hips are still on the outside, though. He's still walking very much in his hips compared to a human, where you walk more... I guess your legs are more directly underneath you instead of splayed. So it's like a difference between, like... Where am I? Here we go. Between, like, this kind of angle and this kind of angle with humans. Humans' legs almost go like that so that we can run, because we're cursorial, whereas apes, non-human apes anyway, have legs that can go more three-dimensionally because they're grabbing stuff with their feet too while they're moving through branches.
That he had 47 chromosomes, one more than a human and one less than a chimpanzee. However, the results were kept ambiguous enough not to ruin a big reveal. Reportedly, up to 26 million people watched the Japanese broadcast. In 1977, Miller, after having Oliver for less than a year, gave him to Ralph Helfer, an animal trainer who housed Oliver in his Gentle Jungle exhibit, before finally closing in 1982. Helfer gave Oliver to one of his trainers, Ken Deckeru, who owned an exotic animal rental company supplying animals for various TV shows. Stage managing Oliver was never easy, so he did very little work in front of the camera. A couple of television commercials and...
Stage managing an adult chimp is, like, just in general, not good. Not easy.
small movie roles, but nothing major. His biggest role being in a Dick Clark TV show called Animals Are the Funniest People, where he played the president in a comedy skit. He was also featured on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries on the Discovery Channel. Oliver was once again
How did I miss that? I watched Unsolved Mysteries all the time, and I never remember ever seeing Oliver on there.
This time in 1989 to the Berkshire Corporation, a Pennsylvania laboratory leasing out animals for scientific and cosmetic testing. He was never leased out for experiments, but for the next 9 years, his home was a tiny, cramped cage.
Teach the ape how to roll cigarettes.
In 1996, primarily primates, an animal sanctuary petitioned to allow Oliver and 13 other chimpanzees to be transferred to them for retirement. Due to pressure in 1998, Berkshire Corporation allowed the move, which became the first attempt anywhere to retire chimps to a sanctuary after they'd been used in medical experiments. After 9 long years, Oliver had ended up at a spacious, open-air cage at Primarily Primates, Texas, where he lived out the remainder of his life with another chimpanzee, a gentle female known as Raisin. She was placed with Oliver for companionship, since Oliver's advanced age and years in the research lab had left him arthritic, mostly blind, and unable to interact daily with younger, more boisterous chimpanzees at the sanctuary. Oliver died in his sleep on the 2nd of June 2012, with Raisin by his side. He was at least 55 years old. Perhaps Oliver was a cross between a gorilla and a pygmy chimp, or possibly an unknown species of one or the other. Or maybe he was the missing link after all.
No.
I'm going to leave you with a quote from one of his past owners, Ralph Helfer. He said, "I don't think Oliver was a missing link, but something happened back there in the forest. This was not a regular chimp." And there we have it, Oliver the Humanzee. How about you? Do you think he could have been the missing link? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's all we've got time for today, but I'll see you all next week. And remember,
So I think Oliver was just a chimpanzee. That's my opinion on him. Obviously, you know, anybody can have any kind of differing opinion that they want, but I am of the opinion that Oliver was just a regular chimpanzee that was trained to walk upright, to act human. You can train apes to ape human behavior. It's really where the term aping someone comes from. So, I mean, there's that. But you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Can humans and non-humans apes hybridize? Has it happened? Was Oliver one of them? Did the Soviets secretly succeed and create Oliver in a lab and then he escaped? I don't know. Tell me. Let me know. And please remember to be kind. Take care. And we'll see you next time.